Welcome to the PSAV Inspiration Cafe. I'm privileged to be joined today by Cathy Nash, Director, she's also Cathy Nash CMP, Director, Meetings and Convention Department, American Psychiatric Association. Welcome, Cathy.
Thank you.
Appreciate your stopping by the cafe.
Thank you.
I know that your primary focus is logistics.
Yes.
Putting the stuff together.
Mm-hmm.
What kinds of changes have you seen over the last few years in terms of logistics, if any?
Well, there's the biggest changes that are going on in the meetings field, especially the medical field, I think deal more with the exhibits, the pharmaceutical companies, the new regulations that have really restricted what pharmaceutical companies can fund, what they can give away, and so that's really changed the nature of our meeting and has reduced our revenues. So we have to learn new ways to create revenues and new ways to continue to bring in exhibitors and still live with these guidelines. So that's been a challenge.
So they limit the terms of sponsorship investments companies can make?
Yes, and just even that they can't even give away a pen anymore. I mean, your exhibit hall used to be a big draw because people would go in and they'd like to get things
stuff,
and you know, they were there to learn as well, but it makes it challenging. So we've tried to come up with new ways to think about how to get people into the exhibit hall, and we've done things like have a Wii Fitness Center, we have free health screenings, we have coffee and the charging stations like they have here. So some things that make people want to go into the hall and then interact with the exhibitors.
Value-added things. Mm-hmm. And in your case, the meetings, are they requirements, certification requirements, so the doctors must go?
Yes, they have a certain number of CME credits they must earn in a year to keep their licensure. And so if they come to our meeting, an annual meeting of 4 or 5 days of education, they can gather up quite a large number of CME credits and you know, to go toward their relicensing. So they have to do that every year. Any
changes, Cathy, in the way of logistics of working with hotels? Because everyone's been through a lot the last few years. So
yes.
Are hotels different to work with now?
Well, I think for both sides. I think the planners and the hotels, we both are suffering revenue shortages and attendance drops and all the things that the economy has done to really hurt the travel and meeting and hospitality industry. So I think the good thing is it's made all of us realize we have to work together even more so, and that it has to be a win-win for both sides. So you go to the negotiating table, certainly one, the best deal that you can get,
sure,
and sort of really nickel and diming everything, but at the same time working with the hotels so that they can meet their revenue you know, needs. And it's made things, I think, it's hard and challenging, but it also helps both sides to really understand what everybody's going through right now.
Are meeting attendees still as demanding in terms of entertainment or environment or the engagement?
Well, I think just like for this meeting, I think conventions really bring people together to network, and that's why I believe there's always going to be a need for these face-to-face meetings. I know there's lots out there about virtual meetings, and people are doing all of these cyber meetings, but I think there's such a need for people to be able to get together with their colleagues and really talk about things of interest. So that's one of the primary reasons they go. And then the second is obviously the educational part of it. I think they have gotten used to the fact that the social events of the days past, again, with the change in the pharmaceutical codes, I think they've just come to realize that's a reality, that we're not going to have those
days
anymore.
Right.
Those days are gone. And you know, it makes it difficult because some of the things that were done help to supplement. We used to have symposia, for instance, where they had a meal. Now they're not allowed to do that. They're not allowed to take, you know, to have food paid for by a pharma company.
Right.
But that helped to pay or reduce their cost, you know, of
Sure.
attending a meeting. So we're all working hard to try to find a new meeting and a new way to look at things in the future.
All of these pieces have
all the pieces have to change.
Readjust. Yeah.
But you know, but you still want to end up with a high quality product. That's the important thing, and you want your attendees to be happy and your exhibitors so that they're going to come back.
Would you, as a career tip, recommend that a young person go through logistics?
Absolutely.
If they're looking for a senior level career in this business?
Absolutely.
Have to have a logistics experience?
I think that's the part that puts the pieces together, and you can use that whether on the hotel side, whether an association side, a decorating firm. I mean, everyone has to do some type of logistics in this business. So, but I say it takes a certain skill. It takes a person who's willing to be very detailed oriented. And so if that's what their nature is and they like to keep track of facts and make things work and put pieces together like a puzzle, then this is the business for them.
So the challenge is, because I think the whole logistics area is something we haven't talked about in previous segments. The challenge I'm guessing you face then is stable or declining budgets, rising expectations.
Yes.
Where do you trade off? What are the trade-offs you have to confront? I mean, shortening the length of the meeting,
yes,
or second-tier speakers, or what?
Yeah, no, I mean, we've tried to keep the quality. The quality is very important. The content is the meeting. If you don't have the content, all you have is some chairs in a meeting room and a projector. So it doesn't mean anything if you don't bring the content that the people want. So you have to look at ways. We did shorten our meeting. We cut an entire day back in 2010. So we cut an entire day off the meeting to cut, the costs,
sure,
and also for people to be out of the office that many days. The attendees, it's expensive for them. So we thought that would help increase attendance. We've cut costs. We've stopped printing things, which a lot of people have done. Gone to more electronic, publicity and things like that. So that's helped cut our budget and take that money and try to put it into technology and things to keep it a very cutting-edge meeting, all the while balancing, the budget, the numbers.
So from a logistics standpoint,
yes,
you got to hold content up.
Yes.
Budgets are down.
Yes.
And expectations are high.
Are high, very high.
So you are managing all these, keeping these balls in the air,
yes,
trying to figure out how to do that.
And nothing stays the same. I mean, the one thing with this business, there is a cycle to it. If you have a meeting in May like mine is, then in January, February, you do certain things every year no matter what. However, the scenery changes every year, and we always laugh when we have a critique and somebody will be complaining about, well, those meeting rooms were so hot, and it's like, let's not talk about things that aren't going to happen next year. We can't rebuild the meeting rooms,
right.
That same city isn't going to be where we are next year, so let's focus on the things we can change. And that becomes a challenge to get people to just forget those things. That's not what's important. But everything changes. Every single year things are changing, and you have to be able to change with it and expect the unexpected.
Right?
When you think you have everything done and you're ready to go, you better plan on something not working.
Can you share with us, without going into any detail, any privileged information, any nightmare you've had to confront?
Yes, and this will maybe give, again, a younger person, because anyone that's been in this business has had these kinds of things happen. But right here in this convention center, we were meeting here in '07, and John Nash from A Beautiful Mind, the real John Nash, not Russell Crowe, but the real John Nash, who is an elderly man with schizophrenia. And so he was speaking in the ballroom right down the hall, and right before, and the room was packed. I mean, packed beyond belief. They went outside, took the chairs off the patio. I started worrying because, fire marshal issues. By the time the session started, the aisles were packed with people, and you couldn't make them move. And then Mr. Nash became anxious and went in the men's room, and we didn't think he was going to come out. But once we got him out and everything was fine and settled, at that session, it's like a high school graduation. It's called a convocation, and we bring 500 people and march them down the center aisle, and they get seated. Well, there was no center aisle because there were hundreds of people, and so I had about 2 seconds to say, okay, what are we going to do? And I luckily was able to bring the people in sort of backwards from the stage and walk them back down a different aisle. And I was panicked, but it worked. Nobody even knew that there was anything wrong.
Did
Nobody
Mr.
knew.
Nash show up already?
Mr. Nash was terrific. I mean, he gave an unbelievable talk, and everybody loved it. And very few people ever knew that there was really anything wrong. But it could have been a big disaster that turned out to be a big success.